tough loss for the Hawks last night, 123-119 against Memphis. So, of course, the Grizzlies get the season series sweep, and the Hawks fall below 500. So, yeah, not a good night, not a good night. But there were a couple of things, and we'll just get the bad out of the way so we can spend some time on the good, because I really feel like the good that we are going to talk about has been the good that we've kind of been talking about for a minute now. And I like the fact that we have that kind of continuity, right?
Right.
But one of the things that was a little unsettling was the bad. And you can look at it as a macrocosm, like the whole weekend getting ejected on Saturday did Trae Young, or the things he did late in the fourth quarter, where he heaved up a logo three and hadn't had a logo Trae kind of day and fouled Ja Morant subsequently, and just so many little things that just went wrong where it was really just kind of like, come on, now it's a head scratcher. You're the leader of the team. Like, you've got to be able to make the smart decisions, use your basketball IQ in those situations.
Yeah, and I've been saying that even in the win against the Indiana Pacers before he got
Mm-hmm.
ejected, it was kind of like, man, what are you doing, Trey? Like, those are some of the, and teams have been keying in on him and late
Oh
in
yeah.
games as well. Like,
Yes.
whoever's
Yes.
Trey's guarding, oh, he getting the rock, and it's one of
Yes.
those old school Michael Jordan kind of like cuff the ball like this and be like, y'all get out the way. Y'all know
Yes.
what
I
time it
got
is
this.
right here.
Yep.
I got this. This is me right here. I'm gonna go ahead and
Yes.
take advantage. So yeah,
Yes.
it's been and DeJounte has kind of been like that too, but more so
Mm-hmm.
Trey. And
Yes.
you would think that he kind of dribbles himself into a certain situations and like kind of get
Mm-hmm.
caught up, and then with him not being that big of a guard, guys are getting the upper hand on him when he does
Indeed.
those things, and teams have been trapping and trapping and trapping and trapping. It sounds like a
Yes.
Jeezy song to you. I'm talking about. That's all you hear. That's all you see late in the games when
Mm-hmm.
when teams get down or they're up and they're trying to gain a lead and put some pressure on the Hawks. They just start trapping Trey and get the ball out of his hands and see what can happen. And I think that for the most part, that's been working out in these teams' favor.
It has. And you made a good point in mentioning DeJounte Murray, because when you're having to kind of be a player and a half, because he's got to take at least half to three quarters of that defensive load for the backcourt for the Hawks,
Indeed.
it does really start to eventually impede your play. So some of the struggles we've seen him have as a two-way player, where some nights he might have a good night on offense, but just be average on defense, or vice versa. Well, when you're having to kind of make up for those mistakes or try to cover them up like we've seen of late in late games, yeah, you're not going, that whoever has to guard you is going to be like, okay, we've worn him out for three and a half quarters. Now it's time for us to go at them both. And when you know that you can go at that backcourt like you do, as I always say, Jarvis, it'll be random dude like
Mm-hmm.
David Roddy or Tyus Jones, and it's like, who are you, Luke
My man with the
Kennard?
fro for the Pacers. I can't even remember his name. Starts with
That's
an
what
M.
the
Mawan or
funniest thing.
Woo.
Everybody said the same thing.
25 points in the quarter, T.
25 points
He
in
dropped
the
25 in the
quarter.
second quarter. Oh, gosh.
Yes, in the
I'm like, what
quarter,
is this
which
dude?
means, yeah, who are you? And it's always that. That's my favorite phrase, random dude. Random dude's
Rando.
coming for them. And that's
Rando's on
the
that
other
court getting
piece.
buckets. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the other piece where when we're going to segue from the bad into the good. But the bad is that everybody knows that, hey, even if we're not hitting from the perimeter, keep shooting,
Yep.
because the Hawks, they're not going to be able to guard you. And whether you think, Jarvis, that it's a cannot or will not, the result's the same.
Mm-hmm.
When the Grizzlies are out here shooting what? Darn near 43% from three.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, 13 for
Absolutely nuts.
yeah, 13 for 30. I think it was absolutely something. Actually, slightly higher than that, because they shot like 39%, excuse me, from the 3-point line. That's because you know that you can attack there. But someplace where they couldn't attack as much was inside. And that was
Yes.
particularly because of what we saw from Clint Capela and Onyeka Okungwu. They came out so assertive, so aggressive last night. And I absolutely loved it because, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been a beast this entire season.
Yes.
And he still got his, don't get me wrong, still got 15 points. But we're talking about somebody that can get multiple like blocks, and someone who could get a double on you in a heartbeat. He only had
Yes.
15 points. And the reason I say only is because that's below his season average. He only had 7 rebounds, right? And so
Yeah.
that's below his average as well. So that's when you start looking at it and you say to yourself, okay, those bigs hung with those bigs. And Dylan Brooks, although he's technically, not he's a forward, but still, you held him to 6 points. And Xavier Tillman, hey, 15 points, but you also only held him to 8 rebounds. Now flip it, and you're talking about CC and Double O getting, I believe it's 15 and 13 points respectively. You're talking about both of them having double-digit rebounds. You're talking about CC with 4 blocks, Double O with 1. And Jarvis, for me, that was the takeaway. The fact that that's how you were able to dominate with points in the paint. That's how you were able to really dominate with second chance points. And you got to the bucket because you had 22 of 26 free throws.
Yeah, T, you talking about 31 points and 27 rebounds combined from the center position. Like, come on, what more can you ask for in today's game? You know what I mean? So, when centers are pretty much obsolete unless you're out there shooting it from half court, from behind the line, 3-point line. So all those things kind of like makes me like very excited about, Clint Capela, because, there have been some conversations. I even thought about it as well. It's like, well, maybe they should move on from Clint. But nah, Clint said, no, I'm still here. And I think Onyeka is in a space where he's getting ready to go into that contract year, T. So I think you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna do with O. And I think that you're gonna have to lean towards potentially paying this dude and figuring out somewhere else to cut, or where else to kind of subtract by addition. You know what I mean? Addition by subtraction. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. So I think all of those things kind of in play when it comes to the Hawks, because like as we come down through these last few games of the season, I really wholeheartedly believe that there is a lot of evaluations going on the court and off the court. So we will definitely kind of see what this team looks like too. And one more quick thing I wanted to bring up to you. Trae is sitting there with 15 technical fouls. That's something to keep an eye on, because we know once you get that 16th one, that's going to be, you got to sit down for a whole game. Yeah. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, because we are talking about quite a brutal stretch. It is the second hardest schedule for the remaining games in the entirety of the NBA. When you're talking about a team that's sitting in 8th place, but sitting there tied with the Raptors. Now, granted, the good news is they actually will get the tiebreaker this year against the Raptors versus, say, last year. But you've got the Cavs coming in tomorrow night, and they are hot still. You go into Brooklyn, and thankfully there's at least a couple days of breathing space, right? But then you're coming back and you're going to take on the Mavs. Well, the Mavs kind of look like you. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. But you got to go to the Bulls. You got to go to Chicago. Then you've got the Wizards, and they played you hard all year. And then you've got the Sixers. And then you wrap up at Boston. I mean, at this point, Jarvis, the bigger question may be, my goodness. So how about that 10th spot?
Ooh, wow. The one thing I can say about the Hawks, like the thing about that is, like, that will mean that you would probably have to go on a nice little losing streak, and Toronto will probably have to go on a nice little winning streak. And given how both of these teams have played, they don't, they're not going to win a lot in a row, and they're not going to lose a lot in a row, because they've just been consistently average. And I think that I don't see it happening, but ask me, would I be surprised if it did?
Exactly, because Chicago is lurking, and that's that other piece. Yes, they are all kind of bottom dwellers right now, and everybody is it's just a toss-up, and it may just come down to scheduling. It really just may come down to whose schedule is the easiest. But if that's something that stresses you out and you feel like you just need a break, or you need some way to get rid of your Hawks stress that comes up every other day, then you probably want to get a Built Bar. That's a good look for you, because it's still March Madness as well. And I'm sure March Madness, probably a couple of weeks ago more than anything, Jarvis, when it started, probably stressed everybody out. I think the crazy results that you got this past weekend, they don't even stress folks out anymore. So you might as well have fun if you can. Right. It's like expected. Sure, a 5, a 9, a 4. Of course. Well, the March Madness bracket is here too. You can still hang out on the Built.com website and check it out. In fact, it's BuiltMarchMadness.com. That's where you can vote for your favorite bar, your favorite puff. Cookie dough is what it is for me, but hey, do you. Vote for whatever bar you want or whatever puff you want. And when you vote for your favorite bar or your favorite puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky locked on listeners will get a free box of Built. Good luck again. But there's more. Not only that, one locked on fan wins a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. So don't forget, it is goodness all wrapped in a package deal. Good protein, not good calories, but good calories because you don't have a lot. So it's Built, marchmadness.com.